Hello everyone. Welcome to Dr. Rajkumar Academy for Civil Services. Let us discuss today the Hindu newspaper of Delhi edition. The first article that we are going to discuss about center government is ready to ease living of gay couples. We know that past days there is a lot of discussion which is happening in the Supreme Court related to the same-sex marriages. So the government recently informed to the Supreme Court that it was willing to form a committee headed by the cabinet secretary to consider administrative measures for the addressing genuine human concerns faced by the same-sex couples in their daily lives. So here, the legal recognition of same-sex marriage is the concern. We know very well the government is a positive in this case. Earlier, government stood that it is related to the societal question, so we need to consider. But right now, the government is ready to appoint a committee to provide a kind of genuine human consents for the same-sex marriage couples. In India, we need to know the issues raised in the various petitions filed regarding the same-sex marriage. One is violation of rights. The public interest litigation filed by two LGBTQ plus couples arguing that the state refusal to recognize them as a married violated their constitutional rights, and about decriminalization of the same-sex marriage because there is no recognition of same-sex marriage because the privacy issues there in terms of fundamental rights, and about a government stand. As I told you, it is for the legislature to enforce such societal morality and public acceptance based upon Indian ethos. These are all the issues which was earlier in terms of same-sex marriage. But as of now, the government is willing to set up a committee to look into the human as well as genuine concerns faced by the same-sex marriage issue. In this particular scenario, we need to understand the Special Marriage Act of 1954. See, the marriages in India can be recognized or registered under the personal laws such Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, Muslim Marriage Act of 1954, or under the Special Marriage Act of 1954. So under these three important acts, the marriages in India can be registered. So it is duty of the judiciary to ensure that rights of both husband and wife are protected. The Special Marriage Act is an act of the Parliament of India with provisions of civil marriages for couple of India and all Indian nationals and foreign countries irrespective of religion or faith followed by either party. When a person solemnizes marriage under this law, then the marriage is not governed by personal laws but by the Special Marriage Act. So, this is the information that you need to acquire in terms of Special Marriage Act of 1954. Following that, path to legislation in terms of same-sex marriage is the concern of our country. After Supreme Court intervention, the government is coming up with a separate committee. It's going to be a game change in this particular case. Just follow this article, then you will get to know about what exactly the ongoing issues related to the same-sex marriage in India. Next article, Go First Land in NCLT with 11,463 crore dues. This is about NCLT, that is National Company Law Tribunal. Air Carrier Go First Airways filed for insolvency resolution proceedings in the NCLT, that is National Company Law Tribunal. It also suspended its flight for the next 2 days. So, what is the issue here in terms of the Go First? There was a cash-strapped career go first has filed for voluntary insolvency proceedings. In this particular article, you need to know what is meant by voluntary insolvency and what is the functions and responsibility of National Company Law Tribunal. So first we'll come to know about the voluntary insolvency. Voluntary insolvency means that company has accepted its business is insolvent. Okay, insolvent meaning you need to know, unable to pay debt owed by the company. That is known as insolvency. So what is meant by voluntary? Voluntary insolvency means that company has accepted its business as business is insolvent. And it is a process in which the company say it cannot pay debts and needs help from someone to sort it out. When the company goes insolvent, it can proceed voluntary liquidation. So the process refers to the dissolution of a company with approval from shareholders and creditors of the company. It's a time-bound process actually to be completed in 270 days from the date of commencement of voluntary liquidation. This is what the exact definition related to the voluntary insolvency. So as per this particular article, this air carrier go first airways took this drastic step because unavailability of the aircraft, a lot of financial woes. Because of that, it is not possible for them to pay the debt back. This is the context of this particular article. So, around to the article, we need to know the information regarding NCLT. This is quasi judicial body, quasi judicial authority incorporated for dealing with corporate disputes that are civil in nature arising under Companies Act. The primary functions of the NCLT is to adjudicate to matters related to corporate laws, including disputes between companies and stakeholders, as well as insolvency and bankruptcy cases. So, this particular tribunal disposal of all proceedings under the Companies Act, such as arbitration, arrangements, compromises, reconstruction, and winding up the company. Adjudicating authority for insolvency proceedings under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. So these are all the major information that you need to acquire in terms of NCLT. Next article about April PMI signals service sector has been best expansion in 13 years. So in this article again it is talking about India's service sector recorded the highest upstick in new business and output since June 2010. So Purchasing Manager Index. As per S&P Global India Services, the PMI Business Activity Index, which rebounded from decline to 57.8 in March to 62 in April, which means there was a hike. Remember, this index, S&P Global Indian Manufacturing Purchase Index, they'll come up with the report regarding the manufacturing sector. So, what is this PMI? It is a survey-based measure that asks the respondents about changes in their perception about key business. And it is calculated separately for the manufacturing and service sectors. And then a composite index is also constructed. So, if you take in India, this is widely followed as an indicator of economic health because the manufacturing and services sector is key driver of economic growth. In general, the PMI reading is seen as a positive sign for the economy as it indicates the manufacturing and services sector are performing well and contributing to economic growth. So this article it is stating about how the service sector getting more expansion in the past 13 years. So the rising from 57.8 March to 62 in April. So this is what exactly the context regarding this particular article. Moving towards the next article, where we need to give importance is that we need to know present imperfect. Irrespective of what the USCIRF says, India must review its right record. One of the major issue that is happening now. See, fourth consecutive year, the government expressed outrage and rejected the recommendations of the US Commission on International Religious Freedom. In the latest report, this USIRF called India as more biased and motivated. So the report related to independent congressional body has called for India to be designated a country of particular concern. So India rejected a report by USCIRF that alleged severe violations of religion freedom in the country. So this is one of the major concern because it is criticizing the India in terms of religious freedom. Okay, what they are telling, there was lot of impact for the minorities in India, including Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Dalits, and Adivasis, and also indigenous people and scheduled tribes negatively. But this was rejected by the government. From such reports, and to develop a better understanding of India should be there. That is the important stand of India. Without understanding our society, it is not accepting this kind of report from the US. So, about this USCIRF, it is an independent bipartisan federal government entity established by the 1998 International Religious Freedom Act. So, the functions about this, they used to do review the facts and also the circumstances of violation of religious freedom internationally, and also make some policy recommendation to the president, the secretary of state, and the congress. So this particular commission uses all international standards to monitor religious freedom. It is required to issue its own annual report as well. So the composition, nine commissioners appointed by either president or congressional leaders of each political party. Moving towards the next article, where we need to give focus related to European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act. See, recent days there is a lot of improvement as well as discussion related to the artificial intelligence. After intense last minute negotiation in the past few weeks on how to bring general purpose artificial intelligence system like OpenAI, ChatGPT under the ambit or regulation. So the members of European Parliament reached a preliminary deal this week on new draft of the European Union in terms of Artificial Intelligence Act, first drafted 2 years ago. Right, so the growing importance of artificial intelligence among the human community, what kind of regulations they are focusing, countries in terms of regulation. So there was a proposed legislation called the European AI Act to introduce a common regulatory framework for artificial intelligence. So this act also work in tandem with the law such as GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulation, and classifies different artificial intelligence tools according to perceived risk level and imposes different obligations and transparency requirements. May include ChatGPT under the general purpose of AI system agency, which describes the tools that can perform multiple functions. Just read this article, you get to know about what kind of framework that they are focusing in terms of artificial intelligence acts in the European Union. The next article that we are going to discuss, it is about Freedom Index. India slips in Freedom Index ranks 161 out of 180 nations. So since today it's a World Freedom Index, press freedom day. So now this article it is stating about the latest report from the global media watchdog named called Reporters Without Borders. In this particular report, India slipped to 161 out of 180 countries. According to the latest report released by Global Media Watchdog Reporters, that is RSF, Reporters Without Borders. So there are more than 1 lakh newspapers, including 36,000 weeklies and around 380 TV channels currently operating in the country. Remember, 1 lakh newspapers, 36,000 weeklies, 380 TV news channels currently operating in the country. Since January 2023, one journalist was killed in the country while turn 10 journalists behind the bars, which means they got arrested. So this year report shows the number of countries deemed satisfactory for their treatment of journalists rising slightly, but so does the number where the situation is very serious. So as I told you, World Free Press Freedom Index is based on five different indicators to calculate the score and ranks of the countries. So political indicator, economic, legislative, social, and security. These are the five major indicators. Scores calculated based on these indicators only. So as I told you, India is in the rank of 161 out of 180 countries, which means it's like very less. Okay, so first place goes to Norway, Ireland, Denmark, first three places. And bottom three countries are Vietnam, China, and North Korea. One more point here they mentioned Pakistan has far better when it comes to media freedom as it was placed 150th, an improvement from last year 157th rank. In India, it was ranked 150, but now it is going behind again, 161. Right. So next article it is about the Supreme Court Collegium rejects IB observation about candidate for High Court judgeship. So Supreme Court Collegium has shown that the published opinions of a former senior who is critical about government will not affect the prospects of lawyer to become a High Court judge. So this is about appointment of the judges. Mr. Puniwala and two other advocates have been recommended for appointment as Bombay High Court judges as per the collegium system. So there was a talk related to the clarity and the lucidity of this appointment. So the collegium come up with a list of 11 points which provide an insight in what it looks for while evaluating the candidates. So it is completely regarding the appointment of the judges based on the recommendation from the collegium system. Already we discussed about collegium, just go through that, then you will get an idea about what exactly this article is stating about. So Jaishankar to hold talks with Chinese Russian ministers today. So he will be host to the Pakistan foreign minister, but one-on-one meeting it is likely. Okay, you just go through this article also because it comes under your international relations and it is about the Chinese and Russian minister meeting with Jaishankar today, our external affairs minister. So, in that, what are the things? Because SCO discussion on Afghanistan, that foreign ministers meeting is going to held by this week. So, first time there was going to be a talk between the two important countries. So, just have a look of this, article. Maybe there is a talk is going to be a border dispute between India and China as well. So Rajnath lays foundation stone for Coast Guard harbor in Maldives. So Maldives National Defense Force Coast Guard Ekatha Harbor was laid founded there by our Defense Ministry Rajnath Singh. Apart from that, yes, government to bring out manual for organ donation. So organ donation is again one of the important concern in our country, particularly national organ and tissue transplant organization. It is now working in terms of compiling some kind of manual as a step-by-step guide for implementation of organ donation and transplantation program in the hospitals and a standard course for training of transplant coordinators as well. This document will be completed and released soon, which was the statement given by Union Health Ministry. So, what is the current scenario of organ transplantation in India? That we need to know as a background information in this particular article. So, in India, the current information. India conducts the third highest number of transplants in world. Just remember these points. Third transplants, higher third transplants in the world. Organs from deceased donors accounted nearly 17.8 percentage transplant happened in India in the year of 2022. The total number of organ transplants with organs from both deceased and living donors increased from 4,990 in the year of 2013 to 15,561 in the year of 2022. So every year, an estimated 1.5 to 2 lakh people needed kidney transplant. So only around 10,000 got one in 2022 of the 80,000 people who required a liver transplant. Less than 3,000 got one in 2022, which means there is an increase in terms of transplants in India. That is the current situation. So the center is making a kind of plan to provide a guidelines in terms of organ donation, a manual. And IMD forecasts a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal next week. First cyclone to form this year will be called Mocha. So weather agencies say various models suggest that cyclone could form by May 9th and grow to severe cyclonic storm the next day. So Indian Meteorological Department said that a cyclone was likely to form in the Bay of Bengal by early next week, but its strength, direction, and impact were yet to be gauge. So now, here in this article, that we clearly see that there was a name given here, name called Mocha. So cyclone naming. So where the cyclones are getting named? See, in 2000, a group of nations called World Meteorological Organization, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, which comprised Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Myanmar, Oman, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. All these countries together decided to start naming their cyclones in the region. After each country sent in suggestions to the WMO on tropical cyclones final the list. So five more countries in the year of 2018 also added Iran, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen. So 13 countries used to give the names. Adopting names for cyclones make it easier for people to remember. That is the intention. And also to identify the individual cyclones to create awareness of its development. Right? So just know this background because every cyclone used to have their own name and read this article regarding the next cyclone is going to form and also the first cyclone for this particular year. Highly pathogenic bird flu virus puts center on alert. It is about the virus. So avian influenza, H5N1, avian influenza or bird flu refers to the disease caused by infection with avian influenza type A virus. So, housing one of the largest livestock reserves across the world, India is at risk and vulnerable to ongoing outbreaks of avian influenza. So, worldwide, it is the biggest issue. But coming to the Indian population, So we also used to face the threat now. Right, so World Economic Forum in the latest report on the pandemic and preparedness to fight against the bird flu. So this is a subtype of avian influenza, has the potential to infect other mammals such as minks, ferrets, seals, domestic cats, and other though contact with infected birds, their feces, or infected bird carcasses. So the human being also used to get affect fever, cough, sore throat, muscle aches, abdominal pain, vomiting. All these things comes under the symptoms. Treatment as antiviral drugs are there, reduce the duration of viral replication and improve prospects of survival as well. Just read this article also. Moving towards the next topic, that is adapting to climate change to cost India 85.6 lakh crore by 2030. They're talking about the green financing requirements. So, Reserve Bank of India, Department of Economic and Policy Research sees need to cut energy intensity of GDP by 5% annually. To achieve the net zero target by 2070, the green financing requirement estimated to be at least 2.5% of GDP a year to address the infrastructure gap. See, green financing is very important concept for you. So, three important area that it is focusing: government, citizens, and business. In terms of government, the regulatory framework and providing institutional setup and traffic designing and subsidies and guarantees. If you take citizens, willingness to pay, awareness and will environmental friendly lifestyle. Business, financial share, technical innovations, local knowledge, backward and forward linkages. So, green financing is a simple term you can remember is that to increase the level of financial flows from banking, microcredit, insurance, and investment from the public, private, and not profit sectors to sustainable development priorities. So better manage environmental and social risk to take opportunities that bring both decent rate of return and environmental benefit and deliver the greater accountability. That is the intention of this particular green financing. Just go through this article, you get to know about why this green financing is important. And WTO needs to look at farm subsidy issue with open mind finance minister. So World Trade Organization should look at the issue of farm subsidies with an open mind as it impacts the food security needs to emerging economics in terms of backdrop of COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war. So they're talking about the farm subsidy issue with the open mind. Right? So, whatever the articles that we discussed, just go through that, and also the information which I gave you, just make a note of it, and give attention towards some 4 to 5 important topics of the day from the Hindu, and just to read that in brief and know the background of the particular article as well, because it is highly impossible for us to read the complete newspaper as well as taking notes. But if you select the topics and read it on a base like what exact contemporary issue and also what is the background of that particular article, then it helps you to understand that article and also to know the background of that particular issue. If next day the continuation comes, means it is easy for you to cope up and continue reading of the same. So that's the reason I always select a few topics and analyzing in depth so that it helps you to have a proper continuation of the same topic of upcoming days as well. Right. So stay tuned. See you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you.